We have all felt the phantom tickle of an Aroa-S wound, that sudden, inexplicable fever that turns a rational mind into a wandering pilgrim of desire. We speak of love as a soft thing, a gentle flutter of the heart, but the old stories knew better. They knew that love is a terrifying violence, a sudden severing of the self, and that the path to true union requires the courage to face the dark, the unknown, and the very gods themselves. This is the story of Cupid and Psyche, a tale told when Rome was the center of the world, reminding us that the soul cannot survive without its shadow. In an age when the Mediterranean was a Roman lake and the gods of Olympus stood as tall as marble statues in every forum, there lived a king who had 3 daughters. The 2 eldest were fair enough, creatures of flesh and blood, but the youngest, Psyche, possessed a beauty that was not of this earth. It was a disturbing, perfect radiance. Men stopped their work in the fields to stare as she passed. Travelers forgot their destinations. Soon, the people ceased to bring offerings to the temples of Venus. They began to burn incense to Psyche instead, calling her the newborn Venus, a living incarnation of love. The temples of the true goddess fell into silence, their altars cold, while the streets rang with the name of a mortal girl. High upon her snowy throne, the goddess of love burned with a jealousy hotter than the forge of Vulcan. How dare a mortal usurp her glory? How could a bag of blood and bone steal the worship due to an immortal? Venus summoned her son, Cupid, that mischievous, winged agent of desire who turns the wisest heads into fools. Her command was cruel and precise. Punish this upstart. Make her fall in love with the most grotesque, miserable, and lowly creature on earth, something so beneath her that her vanity will be her ruin. But destiny, that weaver of threads no god can fully cut, had other plans. Cupid descended to the earth, invisible to mortal eyes, and found the princess Psyche in a state of wretched misery. For though she was worshipped as a goddess, she was lonely. Kings and princes came to gaze upon her like a statue in a museum, but none dared to woo her. She was a thing to be admired, not loved. When Cupid arrived, ready to prick her with a dark arrow of humiliation, he accidentally scratched himself on one of his own golden arrows. In that moment, the god of love fell desperately in love with the mortal soul. Meanwhile, the oracle of Apollo spoke. Psyche's father, seeking to cure the plague of his daughter's unwed status, was told a terrifying truth. The princess was not destined for a human husband. She must be dressed in funeral black, led to a mountain peak, and married to a serpent-like monster who would claim her. The weeping king obeyed, clad in black robes, surrounded by the wailing of her family. Psyche was left alone on the jagged cliff to await her doom and a violent death. But the west wind, sensing the whisper of the gods, caught her up gently. She was not dashed against the rocks, but carried on a soft breeze over valleys and rivers until she was deposited in a lush, hidden valley. There she slept, and when she awoke, she found herself not in a monster's lair, but in a palace of shimmering gold and crystal. Invisible hands attended her bath. Melodious voices sang from thin air, and a feast appeared on the table. She was mistress of a realm built by magic. As night fell, a presence joined her in the dark. She could not see him, but she felt the warmth of his breath and the tenderness of his touch. A voice, sweeter than honey, spoke to her of love and belonging. He was her husband, her lord, but he insisted on one rule: she must never look upon his face. If she trusted him, if she loved him without sight, they would remain eternal. If her curiosity overcame her, all would be lost. In the darkness, wrapped in the arms of the unseen, Psyche found a happiness she had never known in the light of day. Yet, As the months drifted by, the seeds of doubt took root in her fertile mind. Her sisters, driven mad by grief, had climbed the mountain searching for her remains. Cupid, knowing her longing, allowed the west wind to bring them to the enchanted palace. But the visit was a poison pill. The sisters, seeing her splendor, were consumed by envy. They whispered the oldest, sharpest venom. He refuses to show himself because he is a monster. A serpent, a beast who is fattening you up for the kill. Tonight, hide a lamp and a knife. When he sleeps, look upon him, and if he is a beast, sever his head. The words gnawed at Psyche's peace like a rat in the wall. That night, trembling with a conflict-ion of fear and love, she lit a lamp. The flame cut through the shadows, illuminating the bed. She gasped, raising the knife high. There was no serpent. There was no monster. Lying in the slumber of the innocent was the most beautiful being she had ever seen, Cupid himself, the golden boy, his white wings folded like a sleeping swan. Overcome with emotion, she let the knife fall. A single drop of hot oil from her trembling lamp fell onto the shoulder of the god. He awoke with a cry of pain and betrayal. Seeing the lamp and the realization of her broken trust, his eyes filled with a sorrow that shattered the world. "I thought you would trust me," he said. "Love cannot live where there is no trust." And with the flap of mighty wings, he vanished into the night, taking the palace, the magic, and the warmth with him. Psyche was left alone in the cold, hard dirt, the silence of the empty world her only companion. She wandered the earth then, a slave to her own regret, trying to win back the husband she had lost by trusting the wrong voice. She became a servant of Venus herself, unaware that the goddess was her mother-in-law and her sworn enemy. Venus, now furious that her son had consorted with the girl, set Psyche impossible tasks to break her spirit. First, she had a sort of mountain of mixed grains of wheat, barley, millet, poppy seeds by nightfall. It was impossible for a human, but an army of ants took pity on her and sorted the seeds in minutes. Next, she was sent to gather the golden wool of vicious sheep that grazed on the banks of a river. These sheep tore apart anyone who approached. A reed, whispering in the wind, told Psyche to wait until noon when the sheep slept in the shade, and then to collect the wool caught in the thorns of the nearby briars. She survived, but Venus was not done. She demanded a black liquid from the Styx, the river of the underworld, in a crystal vial. This was a suicide mission, for the waters were guarded by iron wolves. Seeing her despair, the great eagle of Jupiter swooped down, snatched the vial, and filled it from the deadly spring. Finally, Venus gave the task that would break the soul. Psyche must ascend into the realm of Hades itself and ask Persephone, the queen of the dead, for a box of divine beauty. Venus said she needed a touch of beauty to soothe her aching head, though in truth, she intended to send Psyche to the land of no return. Psyche stood before a tower that spoke to her, giving her instructions. Carried 2 coins for Charon the ferryman, and a cake for Cerberus, the 3-headed hound. But the tower warned her of the final, hardest test. In the underworld, she would hear the cries of the dead, the wailing of mothers, the pleas for help. She must not look. She must not answer. She must harden her heart and walk straight ahead. Psyche journeyed down, past the voices of the suffering, past the silent ghosts, and returned to the upper world, the box in her hands. She had succeeded. Yet, as she stood in the light of the living world,